of the From Her View podcast with myself, Shadi Camille. And as always, I'm excited to come into the podcast to chitty chat. Obviously, new background, new place, new. Um, and that's kind of like what I want to talk about because I think a lot of times that we get the new, like the blessings, like the answered prayers um, from God. And a lot of the times we really need to be asking, Lord, like, help me steward this. You know what I mean? And that's basically where I'm at. Um, Anytime that there's a time of transition, things kind of get a little difficult, is the word. And so that is where I'm at. But I wanted to be faithful over the podcast still because I absolutely enjoy doing it. It's kind of like my opportunity to, to chitty chat and talk and do all the things that God has put it on my heart to share. So, right now, I have officially started my 12-week year of Atomic Habits. And I kind of wanted to go over some of the things that I am using to help me with it. Let me see, I don't think I have it over here anymore. But some of the things that I'm using are obviously you're going to need a calendar. So we went over how we started our framework. Now we have to go over like how are we actually going to set ourselves up with this plan. So like what are we going to do? What does that actually entail? Like how am I going to organize myself? Because it's all about being organized. So if it's something that you have a hard time with naturally, you don't have to figure it out. And luckily, there's YouTube University where a lot of people can kind of go through and give you more insight on how to do it. But there's so many different ways to do it. I just have it this way, and I like to do it and everything like that. So um, I do have my dry erase board over here, and this is where I write a lot of just like daily task things. Like if there's something like a daily task, like, oh, I'm off and I need to do this, or there's a list of things that I need to do by a certain time, or whatever the case may be, like that's what's on there. So that's kind of what's on there right now, and it needs to be clean and updated and everything like that. But it's nice because it's something in front of my face for me to see, for me to like not be able to ignore it, because that's the main thing that we have going on. We have all these thoughts and ideas in our head, and we never get them out on actual pen and pad, and it just doesn't work out. Or even in a document, like it doesn't work out. So I have several different outlets that I call dump journals. So I use like my notes on my phone or my tablet. It's a little dump journal. It's just like a place where I can put an idea or take notes or something that I heard, and that's where it lives. And then I have a physical journal that I carry around with me that I just kind of like dump stuff in. So things that I hear throughout the day, things that I notice. So I I have one that's like for work that I do, like dumping stuff out for work, but then I also have one for like personal. So if there's something that I want to do, or anything like that, um I map it out. So one of the things I used to do before, which I really need to get back to doing, is when I am faced with a choice or options, I do a pros and cons list. And people think that these things are like so arbitrary, but it's actually very helpful. Um, it was so funny because it reminded me to bring it up on the podcast because I was like signing up for my health insurance, and I mean, it's a whole nother thing, right? It's a whole nother segment of things that I want to talk about for a different type of podcast, but like more into like the financials and things like that, and how your HSA can be a tool for you, a place where you can go ahead and park some money, you can gain some interest, you can save off of that, right? It is for health spending, but which is good is that like you're already saving for that upfront and you don't have to take that money out of your actual operating expenses, right? It's something that's already allocated and set to the side, but they have this thing where you can compare benefits packages and just to see what does one offer that the other one doesn't or what have you, just so you can come to a conclusion of like what's best for you. So initially I wanted the Ferrari health plan, and I wanted the Ferrari health plan initially because the Ferrari is better, right? And then I wanted the Ferrari health plan because um, the prescription. Like I don't really want to be paying all this money out of pocket for a prescription. So one of the things that I've shared on the podcast is that I did have brain surgery. Actually, it's been a while ago. Once I think about it, because I think I was 34. So 3 years ago, going on 4 years ago since I've had brain surgery. It's not something that I take lightly because I do still have to take medication every day for the foreseeable future, um, in order to keep keep the things that I need to keep. So I still have that going on, but um, that is what kind of prompted me to kind of look at my coverage a little bit differently now. And I was like, oh my God, like this is just like a pros and cons list where you kind of like look at the pros and cons and be like, okay, what are you willing to do, like this or that. And so I was like, well, they're gonna have me pay more out of pocket for a prescription for my copay, but if I dump a considerable amount of money into my HSA, it works itself out, and that helps with one of my finance goals. You see how I got there with my 12-week year of Atomic Habit of being able to save heavy and invest, because technically it's an investment account, but I also am allocating that money to it. So it's a savings account that can accrue whatever, it's a completely different thing. But the pros and cons list is something that we need to utilize. So a huge thing about the 12-week year, so like the first thing that I do is I create the framework. So that's what we went over. So I went over my framework in my 5 categories, which is the faith, the family, the future, the finance, and the fitness. So I have those categories, right? Everything is organized as such. Then I go through each category and try to do 1 to 2, sometimes 3, depending on how small it is. I told myself I wasn't going to do that, but I ended up doing that. But sometimes 3, kind of depending on what it is. And then I'm going to start building the systems behind it. So, what irritates me about this whole you need better systems, is like there's really no videos out there about like people, like how do you create a better system. And so like there isn't, right? So like you have habit stacking, which if you don't know what habit stacking is absolutely amazing. So habit stacking is taking something that you're already doing and stacking another thing that you need to do on top of it, so your brain knows that these things must be done in tandem together in order for you to get things done. So a habit stack would be, when I'm doing cardio, because I absolutely loathe cardio, but there's one of those things where I want to build myself up to run, like eventually I want to do like a 5K or something like that, right? So I have to start somewhere. But I would go to class because I'm in college, but I'm in college online. I'll go to class while I'm on the treadmill. I'll read the stuff I need to read while I'm on the treadmill. I'll take a quick quiz or whatever the case may be while I'm on the treadmill. When I was doing a 12-week year where I wanted to watch, like 3 sermons a day and just learn and learn and learn about God, and get the word in me in that way. Um, I would also do that on the treadmill as well. So just stacking different habits, so creating a system, which we could talk a little bit about that. So with my faith, um, I have very specific things that I want to do, and I'll just let me see. I'll pull from let's see. We're already on the finance kick, so I'll go to finance. And if you see me looking like this, I got. Should I pan? I don't want to pan, but I have jumbo calendars. It's really hard to do with this, but I have jumbo calendars that I got from Walmart, you know, and I post them up, and as you can see, you see this calendar behind me, but that's not where it's going to go. It's supposed to go out so my family knows where I'm at, what I'm doing, if I have plans before they be asking me for stuff, okay? But um I have those calendars posted, and it has pertinent information, like things that I need to like quick glance at, so I won't forget. So if I have a new class, which I don't start a new class today, but I start a new assignment this week. And with school, which falls into my which falls into my future category, with school specifically, I like to do batch work. So that means setting aside a chunk of time where I am just going to power through work. But the way that my school is set up, I do have to post regularly in the class in our discussions in order to get attendance credit, and then in order to get credit for the discussion. So the discussion questions are due on Thursday. So we start a new week on Tuesday, but by Thursday you better have that first post posted. And so literally habit stacking after this recording, I'm gonna pop in there, see the discussion questions, get it ready, because some teachers or professors, they're cool, they don't care, they'll have everything completely open for you, so you're able to kind of just go in and batch work and do everything that you need to do. For the discussions and posts, you can't post anything, but what I would do, so this is my system of how to get work done if you are an online student, or even if you're a student and you have complete and total access to what the course requirement or the curriculum, or the syllabus for the class. If you have access to that, you already know what the assignments are, the timeline of when they're going to ask for stuff. If you already kind of have that information of what your coursework is going to be broken down to, you can just do batch work. So it makes it less stressful for you, if you could just do it all in a batch, where you could just sit down, have dedicated, unadulterated time to go through all the stuff that you need to do for a class, and get it all done, get it all organized. So in the beginning, when I was doing a 12-week year, when I first started school, I had giant flip charts, and I would have made my own little check boxes, and it would be like, okay, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and in each box I would have to like mark off, like, hey, did you post this assignment? Hey, did you do all these requirements for this week? Did you do all these requirements for that week? and it's really a nice system to kind of keep you in line. So when I did a little transition from not having to do that to doing that again, it was a little rough. But I made it the habit of going on my phone to class like it was a social media platform. So when I go on my phone and I just click, I open a new browser page or whatever, it's one of the selections that's saved in there because I go to it so much. Like my phone and my laptop, my tablets, everything's synced up. So I go on there so much under my account that it knows, okay, this is probably somewhere that she's trying to go. Let me just have it here. So it's a click. So I just click, I'm in there, and then I'm able to kind of navigate and do what I need to do, which makes it inexcusable for getting it done because we do have parameters, right? The only time that it gets the only time it gets a little bit annoying is when you have a class and then you have to cite your source. So like when you have to like, oh, refer to this article and then cite your source and stuff like that. But if it's something like, because I have to use a specific type of generator to make it an AP official cited source, that's the kind of like the little irritating part. But if it's just like a regular discussion, because I think about it like if I was actually in lecture and we're having a discussion, it would just be a discussion. I'm not going to cite my source in conversation. That's weird. But that's how I do that for school. So the habit stacking on that. But you have to create the different types of systems to get you to where you need to go, right? So it would be one of those things where you kind of study backwards, right? You see people who are like, oh, even on like YouTube or whatever, and they're like, oh, I just bought my first house. But most of the time, they'll go through and they'll tell you everything that they had to do to get to that point to purchase their first home, to make that information readily available. So, like, I'm in real estate, I know those steps. That's a whole nother thing that I'm gonna have to go out and do. It's another plan for 2026, but I'm in real estate, so I know what those steps are, but I haven't made my first sale yet. So I'm really excited for that. That's something that I really want to do. I have my first client, but we haven't found something that she completely loves just yet. So we're still working that through. But that is a system. So when it comes into heavily for my finance category in particular. So I'm going to use that to kind of structure this conversation on how to create your systems because you everything is a system and you're going to have to do something that number one you can actually do, and number two that you can track that you're doing it. So one of the first things that I did when it came to my finance category that I pretty much do all the time is a bare bones budget worksheet, but it's just basically a budget worksheet. So it is this I got from the Budget Mom, and I think it's one of her free downloads. So you can go to like thebudgetmom.com and free downloads, and you can find the bare bone budget worksheet, and I absolutely love it. I don't necessarily use it in its entirety, like how it's laid out, but it definitely does serve a purpose for myself. Now, do I necessarily need this budget worksheet? No, I don't. But if I can still do something like this in a regular notebook. So I have my bullet journal somewhere, and it has it on there also because my printer broke, and so I couldn't print any more of these, and that's where I'm at. When you're taking a look at your finances, I want you to immediately get rid of my employer or my job or whatever. It's your investor. Your 9 to 5 is your investor. Why? Because it's taking up 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 hours of your life. Okay, so that's why it's important to think of them as an investor, because we all have dreams. The jobs that we work are were literally somebody else's dreams that every time we show up, we're helping them achieve them. So I like to think of them as my investor. So anytime, I get a new role or a new position or anything like that, I'm always thinking about how to gain more inflow from my investor. So how do I get more capital from my investor? And that's where I start. So I list all my investors, so all the avenues in which I get income, I list those. And when I do this, I don't do gross. I always do net. And I've been doing it so long that I pretty much got the percentage down. So I know what the take home is going to be. Sometimes right to the cent. Sometimes I'm off by like a dollar or so, but never anything too crazy because I got it down that good. And then I know what I bring home in a monthly aspect, which helps me then in turn do this. So I go through and I list everything. Now there's certain things that are not on here, like I have certain subscriptions that are not on here that I need to add them to make this list more accurate. But these are like the things that if it's bare bones, if like this is what's the most important to me, and that's how I get how much I can invest and how much debt I'll be able to pay off. So when it comes to investing, I I obviously have a 401k that I invest in like an employer one, right? And then I also have my own brokerage account through Robinhood. No sponsor because they didn't give me no money, but through Robinhood, and I use that, and so that's what I do my investing in. So it's one of the things that I deem it as important. So it's not an option. It's something that I've tricked my brain into being like, no, this is actually part of your bill. So I get in the habit of investing a standard amount of money every time. Sometimes I'll do more, like if I'm like looking at the market and I'm like, hey, like what's going on with this? Like this is a good little let me dump a little extra money in here. I'll do that. But for the most part, I kind of try to keep it standard. So with that, I've created my bare bones. The way that I budget is the way that the budget mom teaches. So I budget by paycheck method. Um, I came from getting paid every week to getting paid bi-weekly. Um, I'm no stranger to it. It is what it is. As long as you know how to manage your money, it's really not that big of an issue. Um, but that's where I'm at. So once I get that number, and I always even dial it back on the lower end. So once I get that number, I can get a view of how much money should hit my accounts monthly and then yearly, because I want to know like how much is it going to be with the bare bones budget, method that the budget mom uses. She makes it very plain that if you are serious about getting out of debt, if you're serious about purchasing a home, if you're serious about saving, if you're serious about investing, you have to take a look at where your money is going. Now, one of the things that she does that for the life of me, I just can't get into the habit of doing. Like, I try like so hard, um, which is not a part of this 12-week year, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to incorporate it when it comes to finances, but tracking your spending. So, like, literally making a ledger of everything that you spent, what you spent it on, and then she does like weekly wrap ups and then monthly wrap ups and then her yearly wrap ups of like how much did she spend, was she over, this and that. And at the end of the day, it's data, it's analytics, it's stuff that I love. You know what I mean? It's just, I hate to have to be the one to create it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing is, it's like, I don't resonate. If there was an app that did it, which my bank accounts do it, but like they don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't break it down to, it breaks it down into like categories, but it doesn't break it down into my categories, like for me to recognize and know and see and be upfront with what it is. So that's the only thing that it just, you know. So one of the things that I did with being serious about really trying to get things moving is I moved. And with moving, I'm in a different area. I did get the space and everything that I want. So I'm happy about that. So I did get the space that I want. Like, it was so funny. I didn't even realize it when I toured the place. It's such a funny story, but it's a funny story because it had to be 1,000% God, because it couldn't have been nobody else. Um, I think I was trying to talk about it on one of the other episodes that like would not record because the sound was not sounding. But um, I literally looked. I had it in my mind. It was written up there on this erase board, but I got all messed up since I moved the erase board here. But the place that I was honing in on, I was like, oh, they have what I'm looking for. I need this. I need that. I needed around this price, and I was very much a stickler about this price. You have to be very specific when you ask God for something. Very specific, child. So my whole thing was like, look, I don't want to spend X amount of dollars. Okay. I know what I'm spending now, and I want to do, let's see, let's eat. That's crazy. Wait, that's true. Yeah, yeah. Wow. But I want to stay like $500 below what I was currently spending, and I was just doing the math right here, and I was like, oh dang, I'm like $600, um, under what in that range, and it was 500 because I wanted to factor in like, this is before I started a new position, but I was like factoring in like gas and tolls and stuff like that. So giving myself a good realistic number of how much I would actually be able to save. But in the end, it probably does factor out to $600. So I'm able to save $600. So this is like, it's not my first official month here. Um, because I think I moved in like November. So I didn't officially move out of my other apartment until December 31st. So it is still fairly new, right? Like 3 weeks new. So with that being said, I basically next month will be like a full month of me seeing like, okay, am I going to see the returns of everything that I wanted to do? But this is just how I have to start the finance system. So when I was talking in the framework episode before about how like I'm gonna have to delay the starting of my 12-week year because it does have a little bit of planning that comes in the front part of it, because it's not like it's a workbook, which I kind of wish there was a workbook like tailored to how I want it. Um, but there's not like a workbook or a packaged thing or, oh, praise Jesus, but it's not a workbook, or they have their own workbook in a packaged thing or whatever. But and I've used it. It's not a packaged thing, but they have their worksheets and I've used it, and I ultimately really just like the way that I do it. And it just works for me and it makes more sense. So that's how I have it set up. So I went through everything, gauged the pricing on everything, and was being very realistic with myself. So I did have to end up balancing this. Sorry, guys. I had to balance this because the amount was one thing, and then I had to like go through and go to like my variable expenses, which a variable expense is just something that it fluctuates or defluctuates, depending on whatever, and it's not always a concrete price. Um, so, but these was in particular that I have control of. So then you have other variable expenses that could be like, let me see, like your electric bill, because it's something that it kind of goes off like how much you use. So whatever you're using, that's how much the bill is going to be. So that qualifies as a variable expense where you can kind of do stuff to circumvent it, but then you kind of really can't. It just depends on that. But I'm going through all of this. I'm seeing how much I have after I've paid my operating expenses or I've allotted for my operating expenses. So, my operating expenses are the things that I need that need to get done, right? So I have my operating expenses would be like my rent, um, my electric, my phone bill, my internet, and then my car insurance, my renter's insurance, my life insurance. Um, those are the things that like no matter what, those are those are my priorities, right? Um, then and then but also tithing. That's a priority. Like get back to tithing. That is a priority. But then I have my envelopes and then I have debt. So for my debt, I have a couple credit cards and then I have my tax bill that I have to pay. And so that's just something that I just like I just pay it, Um, those are also important because uh, I'm trying to maintain or exceed my credit score. Like you're always just trying to get better in your credit, and so you kind of gotta pay your bills on time, um, and not late. You want to pay it on time all the time. So doing that, and then I have things like my food, and then it used to be the gas category, but it's just car. And it's car because I have an SUV. And when I got this SUV, I was just like, yeah, like SUVs, like, woo, right? SUVs have a ton of maintenance costs on them that is way more than if you've had several sedans, which I've had several sedans before I got it. So I make the comment that like everybody wants an SUV until it's time to buy tires. Okay, because buying tires for an SUV is not for the weak. Okay, so I want to save a specific amount for oil changes, for tires. I need to replace some windshield wipers, just like anything that's car related. So gas, of course, and then tolls. So I have an amount that I want to make sure that I have set aside for that. And then household and investing is one of those categories. So I also have a couple of different things that I'm trying to do, which is separate from my employer stuff. So in previous times, I never really counted my 401k or anything like that as like me saving. It was kind of one of those things where I hide money from myself, and I just thought of it as just hiding money from myself. So um, I never really counted it, but now I want to factor that in also. So that is going to be another system. So I went ahead, I got this, I got my list and everything like that. When I have my list, I have to know when these things are due. When I know when they're due, I have um, a calendar book, which I have one right here. So I have a calendar book. I fill it out. Um, I put when the bills are due, and I pretty much loosely follow the budget mom method. Like, I I usually put like the bills when it's due, for how much, and then what paycheck I plan on paying it with. That's when you would like highlight it and stuff like that. And then if I have any events going on or anything like that that I need to be aware of, I'll do that when I am budgeting money. So now that I know this, I have to get into the habit of thinking before I buy stuff. So right now, I've been doing like a lot of cooking. The most things that people spend their money on is food. It's like food. So like eating out and everything like that. That's where majority of people's money goes. So managing that, not really doing any of that at all. um, which another category is kind of helping with that. So all the systems are working together to benefit me, you know. But that is how I know doing this budget breakdown, seeing that everything that is important to me is getting taken care of, and then that everything else is freed up to do other things with. And so by knowing what's what, I'm able to make my goals accordingly, right? So if I say, oh, I want to heavily pay down debt, um, it's not, it's not, it's not true to the 12-week year um, frame, because it does have to be something measurable and attainable. So when I say I want to heavily, I want to heavily pay down debt, I actually want to pay down 2 credit cards. So I want to pay down 2 credit cards completely. So I go through, I know what all of their balances are, what their payments are, when their due dates are, and then I'm making a habit to obviously keep their regular due date a priority, but then when I have the extra to kick over there, kick the extra over there. So when I say I want to heavily invest, I'm going to have to think of a better number for that. So the number is basically going to come from the math that I already did by creating the bare bones budget. So if I add up every investment category, which I have three, including my, or four, including my 401k and my HSA, and then my two ones that I manage, I take that math of what's already being put aside for those, and then I multiply it by the 12 weeks, and that'll give me the number that I need. So then I would have something that's measurable. So once I have that number that I need, then I'll be able to say, okay, by this week, I should have this much for this. You know what I mean? The only difference is because I'm not paid weekly, I'm paid bi-weekly. When I do like my reconciliation, like we're supposed to do for at the end of the week with the 12-week year, it's gonna just be bi-weekly because that's just how the finance of it goes. So that's something that I cannot measure fully until bi-weekly. So once all the dust has settled and everything has been allocated and paid and put to where it needs to go, then I'll be able to say, okay, yes, for sure, I made the the uh the measurement of where I want it to be for that. Um, so that's the system for that. The system is I have all these things at my desk. I see them when I come into my bedroom. It's a side thing. So I see it, I know what it is, and then it's going to make me want to come and fill it out. I know when it's the week of payroll to look at my bills and see where everything's is at, and then start doing my budget. So I have um, a 12-week year finance book, if I can find it. Okay, I found it. But I have a 12-week year of Atomic Habits Finance. And this is where I put everything finance related into it. It's a bullet journal. I got a whole pack of them off of Amazon. I'm really liking the bullet journals because I've gotten different worksheets, different budget worksheets from just different creators and things like that. And I ultimately created my own that I really, really liked. Let's see, because I actually keep records and files from my old budgets, and it's actually pretty amazing. What I like about it is that it's a literal time capsule of where I was at one moment in time, and then just like how God saw me through, like what I was going through, you know, what I had going on and everything like that, what I was trying to do. Life, I don't know what that is. But this is from 2024. It's all bundled up. Hey, these got blank worksheets in it. But these were the worksheets that I created, which I absolutely loved because I could fill out my calendar on top, do my investors here. This was my tithes and offering, and then I would have my bills, my envelope stuff, and then I call it like my extra. So extra could be anything. So if I want to do extra debt, or if I have a specific fund saving category that I want to do, that's where I would put it at. So I really like that. So this is how I was doing them, and I like it because it just has my numbers and it shows me exactly what it was like, how much I was making at this moment in time, and then how I was able to still live and survive, and how God's hand was on me. Okay. And that even though I'm in a place where like I make, obviously I make more, but it still keeps you grounded in the sense of like, okay, yeah, you make more, but also remember when you didn't have as much and you were still able to get by, you were still creative and you still had ingenuity. You could do that as well. But it looks like this now. And so it's all in one little small, not pocket size, but more containable thing. And I draw it out by hand every single time. It is just easier for me to really see what I'm trying to do. So I like it this way, it all in one book, because I'm able to track everything. So I want to pay off 2 credit cards specifically. If how what am I gonna pay off, right? I can't just like close my eyes and put a finger at a credit card and be like, okay, I'm gonna pay you off. I wanted to go through, which I have it somewhere on a giant flip chart, but I went through. I make the category of the balance, the payment amount, and the percentage rate of interest and due date. That just helps me kind of figure it out if I wanted to do the avalanche method, which for myself sometimes is just it just kind of is what it is. Like I'll just do the snowball method. So avalanche method is you go to the one that has the least, or is it the highest percentage rate? I think the lowest percentage rate first. I can't remember. I really don't do it at all ever. I think I tried it like maybe once or twice, and I prefer the avalanche method. It's just easier to, or the snowball method. It's just easier to see the balance, take the one that has the smallest balance and throw extra debt payment towards that and knock it out. So I was able to list them all, see what their balances are, and be like, okay, cool. I'm taking the 3 with the smallest balance, and I'm gonna try to pay all 3 off, but I definitely can pay off 2 down to 0 balance and keep them like that so I can make some other moves, right? And I just go ahead and I do the math of, okay, this is the total amount of debt. Okay, divide that up by the amount of paychecks, and then I'm able to get to my number of how much I should have for extra debt. So I should be able to, have like a little over $100 towards extra debt to pay it off within 12 weeks. So that helps me measure it out. So I know when I'm doing my budget, my extra should be $104 at very minimum. That's what it needs to be. Now I did my budget for this pay period, and it already came out that I would have more than that left over for extra debt, and I, I was gonna have more than enough money in general. So I did. What did I do? I did increase a lot of the budgets, you know, by like $100 or $50, um, $20, like whatever, to increase it. Um, that way I can start, with a little nest egg in those areas for finance. Because the finance category, it's a beast because it's something that if you want to be successful, you have to keep tabs on. Like you can't not know where your money is going. You can't not know. You need to know where it's going. Um, you need to be able to know that all five of the categories are very important because it hits literally every area in your life that is important. And you know your life better than I know your life. So you know where there's some areas where you are lacking or there's areas of improvement that you want to focus on. So that's the beauty of the 12-week year of Atomic Habits is that I can go through and say, okay, in faith, I want to do this. In family, I want to do this. In the future, I want to do this. In finance, I want to do this. In fitness, I want to do this. And come up with the system and put it into play. So, in the 12-week year, there's lead indicators and lag indicators. So, processing the 12-week year, we have lag indicators. That's all that we're working in. So, our lead indicators will be at the end of the 12 weeks where we do our final measurement or our final account of everything, and then we'll be able to see where we're at. Before I go, because this is longer than normal, I also have another calendar. And you're probably like, girl, like you got 50 calendars. It's never not enough, okay? Shush. But this one I like because it is a week calendar. It's just a regular this week calendar. And then on the other side, it'll have like your to dos, a little bullet journal spot, and like little goals if you want to write it out. And I got it from Walmart. It doesn't come like this, it comes like in a little binder thing. But what I like about it is I will write my way of measuring if I'm doing the things that I said I wanted to do per my 12-week year. It's all in one little kit and caboodle spot. I flip it open. I look at what today is. So today is Tuesday. Okay. I was supposed to do a media post today. I did not post anything on social media. I did not. Oh, it kind of does not count. I did post a podcast episode today, but that's because I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I ended up going to the gym in the evening and not in the morning like I normally would. And so Monday, I was able to do, I had like, well, let's see, 5 things I wanted to do. So I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to learn Spanish for an hour. I wanted to record the podcast. I wanted to draw and pray, and then study the Bible. I did 3 out of those 5 things. So I'm already starting off kind of, but it's okay. You are tracking yourself, your habits, and what you're doing. So today, I also had 5, which was cleaning for 2 hours, a media post, new class, draw and pray, and Bible study. So the only thing I've done today, officially, is one thing. And so that leaves me with 4 other things to do still, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I am still going to attempt to do these things, but this is a nice little thing to like open up, and you could just take some time and just pre-fill everything out if you have everything set up on the day that you want to do it, and just get it done that way. It's way easier to keep track or measure it. Now I've seen other people that take a bullet journal and they have like these very like elaborate cutesy ways of doing it. I like cutesy, but I if I gotta do it, it ain't gonna be that cutesy. Um, but it's just a way of tracking, and are you doing the things you set up before you to do in order to get to the place that you're trying to go. So that is just a little bit of how to set up the systems. Obviously, I'm gonna have to do a part two because there is so much more into it. I more than likely would do it set up in a very nice way where you can actually see my stuff and I can actually point to and show you just how I do things. But this is a labor of love. It's a full process, and I can't wait to bring you in on the journey of me trying to create better systems, create better habits for myself in this 12-week year. So it's been another episode of the From Her View podcast with Charlie Camille.